Shalom Chavrim, I'm Stephen Benu. You're watching Israeli News Live, and we have a string of terror that is happening in Israel. Once again, the Intifada kicking into full gear, and this time the attacks are on women. Daphne, as many of you may recall earlier, just a couple of days ago, was brutally murdered in front of her 6 children. She was trying to defend her children from an Arab attacker that broke into her house, and she suffered severe wounds to her upper body and succumbed to the wounds on the scene and was pronounced dead in her own home. Once again, today, a pregnant woman was stabbed by an Arab terrorist in Gush Etzion. According to the Israel National News here, this was the scene of the Tekoa attack here in the photograph you're seeing here. A 30-year-old pregnant woman was moderately injured in a stabbing attack in Tekoa, south of Jerusalem. The victim was given emergency treatment at the scene for multiple stab wounds to her upper body. Mogen David Adam paramedics managed to stabilize her, and she was evacuated to Jerusalem's Shari Sadiq Hospital in moderate condition. She was later identified as Michal Froman, daughter-in-law of Rabbi Menachem Froman, a Tekoa who passed away in 2013. The pregnant woman was stabbed after a terrorist broke into a clothing store where she was working in Tekoa, located in the east of Gush Etzion block in Judea. An armed civilian shot the 70-year-old Arab terrorist at the scene, and he was later evacuated to Hadassah Ein Karim Hospital in Jerusalem in serious condition, suffering from a gunshot to his leg. The hospital reported he was unconscious and on artificial respiration in the trauma unit. The stabbing is the latest in a string of similar attacks in the area south of Jerusalem. It's getting very serious there, to say the very least, there in Jerusalem with all these attacks. We seem to see a little bit of a lull there for a little bit. The Israeli military and police had very much stopped on several occasions, stopped the attacks that were going on there in and around different parts of Israel. But then again, once again, it has picked up. Now, this is also a new wave of attacks, or type of attacks, where the attackers are now breaking into the homes and killing their victims versus just doing it openly on the street. In another article, they were showing how the attacker of Daphne, which you see pictured here on your screen with her husband, Daphne was her attacker. After he murdered her, he had escaped. CTC footage had captured the assailant slipping through a field, getting away from the house there. But as of yet, he is still at large, has not been captured. The Israeli authorities have done a sweep through the West Bank looking for him, but has not found the murderer as of yet. The article here that was put out about Daphne, Arab terrorist murders Othniel woman in her home, just kind of give you a little bit of more information on here. She was 39 years old, a mother of 6 children, 2 of them foster children. She was initially critically wounded in the attack and succumbed to her wounds shortly thereafter. The Arab terrorists who carried out the attack succeeded into breaking into the town, entered the woman's home, and murdered her before fleeing the scene. I say breaking into the town because it is in one of the villages there in Judea and Samaria is where she actually lived at, one of the settlements there. So very, very unsafe right now for the Jewish people living in the land of Israel, and they need prayers more than anything else, that God will watch out for them. The woman who works as a nurse fought with the terrorists at the entrance to her home as her children were nearby, according to the testimony. The children did not see the attack, but heard her shouts and came running, and then called up security forces to hunt the murderer. Security forces are currently pursuing the terrorists, aided by a helicopter, and the residents of the town were asked to stay in their homes during the manhunt. The IDF has clarified that the terrorist is no longer in the town, according to that report there. In other news in Israel, another very interesting thing that is going on when it comes to the economic side, that is Ukraine threatens to sanction Israelis doing business in Crimea. You want to talk about a hatred that this man here has for Russia and, of course, Crimea. And what's funny, though, is he is now the president of the Ukraine, but it was through a coup by the United States and his neo-Nazi thugs that overthrew the pro-Russian government there, put this man into power illegally, that is. This is Poroshenko. And yet he just runs around throwing his weight everywhere, showing that he is somebody. And very much it's still at war with the Russian separatists in his country there, the self-proclaimed Donetsk region and Luhansk region there. He is at war with them. He's very bitter over Crimea and Russia annexing the country there through a referendum where the people chose to be under Russian rule and not up under Mr. Poroshenko's rule. Says the Ukrainian government has threatened to place sanctions on Israeli citizens or companies doing business in Russia-occupied Crimea. That's what he calls it, or at least that's what Israeli national news is calling it, which is really kind of sad that they're calling it Russian-occupied Crimea. There was a referendum. The people did choose to go out, so it is not an occupation. In an announcement published in both English and Ukraine on its website Friday, the Ukrainian embassy in Israel charged it had obtained information that Israelis entering Crimea in violation of Ukraine law were conducting business with illegal authorities. The embassy states that such actions are considered as a violation of the Ukraine legislation, in particular the law of Ukraine on ensuring the rights and freedoms of citizens and legal regime of the temporary occupied territory of Ukraine. The embassy asserted it further stressed that any financial transactions with Russian forces in Crimea is a violation of international law as per March 2014 UN General Assembly resolution on the need of maintain the territorial integrity of Ukraine. In the case of the continuation of such actions, the relevant information will be transmitted to competent authorities of Ukraine to further bring justice perpetrators of violation of the current legislation, the announcement continued. It will also consider the inclusion of relevant Israeli companies collaborating with Russian-occupied Crimea to be the list of legal entities which are subject to special restrictive measures. Now, the thing that's very concerning to me is I have watched slowly but surely the Israeli authorities are siding more and more with the United States when it comes to any actions that is in regard to what Russia is involved in, whether Russia being involved in the Middle East conflict, defeating ISIS. The Israelis have totally turned against the Russian President Vladimir Putin and has sided with the United States regardless of the facts that are out there that clearly shows the U.S. has definitely been practicing an imperialistic type of approach in countries around the world. What will Israel think when the United States comes against their country? When the U.S. comes against Israel? When Obama, maybe as the head of the United Nations, which is what he is definitely running for now, and he will get it because he's a very good right-hand man for Pope Francis and will do Pope Francis' bidding very well as a UN chief as well. So I'm sure that Barack Obama, the President of the United States, will actually get that UN chief spot, and when he does, he'll be able to enforce exactly what the Pope would like. Anyway, very concerning news that we see going on around the world. I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live. Shalom. Good evening.